Welcome back to Digital Perspectives, everybody. Let's try this again. Boom. This is the third time today I've tried to make a video, and for some reason or another, one thing goes, one thing works, one thing doesn't. I don't know what's happening. We got the gremlins in the computer system today, I think. At any rate, it's been an amazing day. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's go ahead and get started into this thing. We're going to cover an article about a new dollar that's possibly backed by gold and going back on the gold standard. And they're talking about a potential for October 1st or an October date that possibly would happen. Let's go ahead and take a look at that article now. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you because I just did that twice before and the video stopped. I don't know why, but I'm not going to read. So maybe that's why. It's to save you guys from me reading this article all over again. However, there is a notion that there will be a new dollar backed by gold coming by the U.S., and it could potentially be coming out in October 2020. Now, I do want to remind people that you can go back in to my video playlist and you can click on and search in there new dollar treasury bill, and you will find a couple videos that I've done of the suggestion that there is a new dollar being made by the U.S. Treasury and that it would be issued, and the potential that could be backed by gold. Trump has said openly he is a fan of the gold standard. He has said that he would like to return to something like that. We know that recent nominee to the Fed, which has not been confirmed, but nominee Judy Shelton, former advisor to President Trump, is a fan of the gold standard in a cryptocurrency sort of way. But why are they talking about now? And what is with the October deadline? So, okay, just to get into this a little more. So every 5 years, the IMF reviews the SDR basket, which is the basket of currencies that is weighted. The US dollar is the biggest and most weighted currency in that basket currently. This article is basically suggesting, when you go through it, that in order to deal with the printing and the endless quantitative easing that's been taking place with the US dollar and its global reserve status, the IMF may consider taking it out of that basket that backs the special drawing right, the SDR, and using that as a moment to kind of dethrone the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. It says it meets in October between the 12th and the 18th to evaluate the situation, and then we'll have to wait to see if there is something as drastic as that is done. One thing I can tell you that's interesting is that the Fed has obviously started buying into the private sector and buying into like corporate bonds and companies, so taking a stake in physical U.S. companies, right? So that to me is pretty outstanding, because I mean, we're talking about it really, to me, and I mean, look, I'm a backyard economist, but to me, it certainly looks like the Fed is certainly taking a hedge into the companies instead of leaving the money sitting on the table. So, or buying even more treasury bonds, which we know are really not worth anything. So it's a bad spot to be in. However, this does suggest that there would be a dethroning, so to speak, and an opportunity for the IMF to propel the SDR, as it was always seen as world money, which, since it was created in 1969, it has failed. It has never been successful as that, because they never had a big enough market for it to make it liquid. So really, truthfully, the SDR is not cash like you would get this cash and go buy a haircut or a soda pop or a pair of shoes, right? This is actually like a treasury note that's lent to the countries in an issuance, which is money, and then they're lent against that note or that bond or that issuance, and then they get cash to do the things they need to do. Now, whether they move the SDR into an electronic form that's on a distributed ledger technology system would make a lot of sense to me. And I think that goes a long way to the conversation being that the World Bank may consider moving that basket around. And I'd be quite interested to know what else may go or come out of that basket. So October looks to be a pretty interesting month for all of us when it comes to paying attention to what the IMF and the SDR is going to do here. Okay, so now, not to make light of that, but, we do have to pay attention to that. Oh, currently right now, I do want to remind everybody that, when it comes to the IMF, the World Bank, voting rights are based on the size of each shareholder. The G20 nations make up the key players, the largest being the United States with 16.5% voting power, and conversely, they have veto power because of that percentage holding. The Trump has generally been cooperative with the IMF. Of late, he's taken a turn because he halted the funding for the World Health Organization, and that took the world by surprise. Secondly, the U.S. Treasury Department made it clear, according to a news site, Foreign Policy, it was going along with the SDR bandwagon. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin viewing the SDR expansion as ill-targeted because, as issued on a symmetrical basis in proportion to existing shareholding, 70% would go to G20 members, most of them which did not need them. Only 3% would go to those most in need. And this is what he said. Listen, if members of the G20 want to increase the SDR's availability to the poorer countries, then they can start by lending some of their own. That is harsh. However, that's where things sit. The rumors and big fear is that the IMF may opt to remove the U.S. from the global SDR basket, effectively reducing the U.S. veto's rights from the world stage. The SDRs would then be a step closer to replacing the greenback as the world reserve currency. Considering the potential damage of the Fed's QE will inflict on the dollar, weakening its status as the world's currency, the potential IMF move towards replacing the greenback with SDR would cause massive devaluation of the dollar, possibly up to 80%. As much as President Trump has been influencing the Fed actions, despite the bank's statements to the contrary, having pressured their 180 turn from raising cutting rates amid a balance sheet reduction, President Trump has never been a fan of the Fed, with the Fed pledging to load up its balance sheets. With the nation's debt skyrocketing to the heights unprecedented, it seems as if the bank and nation would be headed towards a state of insolvency. Now, we already know that the U.S. liabilities and the U.S. total assets are upside down. They have been underwater. We covered that the moment it happened and leading up to that. So that is something Cryptopolis and I covered extensively. So we are already underwater when it comes to U.S. liabilities versus U.S. assets. We have been for a couple months now. So following a massive plunge into dollar values, we'd see a surge in gold prices with new dollars issued, a surge in gold-backed dollar values as well. Okay. So there you go. We'll have to look for the October deadline for the IMF to see if anything at all takes place, let alone something as massive as that. Now, here's the other thing we want to keep a reminder of. It's IPO season. Cryptopolis reminds us that it is IPO season. Planeteer, I think is how you say it, Planeteer, files confidentially for an IPO, and he's just giving the wink eye there to old Ripple, letting them know, hey, if you wanted the IPO, none of us would be upset about it. We got you back. And we do. And I'll tell you who else does too. It's Link2. Link2, which, by the way, what I'm showing you is a free mobile app, and it's a great app, very user-friendly. You should download it on your phone and keep up with it, because Link2 is quickly becoming the premier renowned company, private equity wholesaler, when it comes to blockchain and cryptocurrency companies that need to IPO or pre-IPO. Pre-IPO. So if you look here, you'll see Planeteer is actually listed. So they are actually selling pre-IPO shares of Planeteer right now. We know for a while they've been selling Ripple shares, pre-IPO shares, and that is exciting, and they are currently selling them right now. You do have to be an accredited investor, but you don't have to have as much money as you think you do. You should check that out. I think it's a $10,000 minimum buy-in, which is a lot smaller than most accredited investor situations or buy-ins. Usually they start at like 100K or more, and this one is a 10K. So pretty affordable solution for people who want to get into something. However, I do want to let people know also, Uphold just recently moved into the pre-IPO and selling their stock, and they are listed on Link2 as well. You don't see them here because this is an advertisement for the mobile app, which is free. So make sure you check that out. Now, I was in a conference all this afternoon, and it was exciting because it was a conference where we got to discuss a lot of things about companies that were either blockchain companies or digital asset companies, and it is exchanges, and it's a very exciting conference today. And I got a chance to ask Greg Kidd, one of the first investors and employees at Ripple, a question about XRP status, whether it is a security, a commodity, or a currency. I think you're going to love this exchange that we had here. Let's take a listen to it right here.
Good question.
Oh, yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So my next question is for Greg Kidd. Greg, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Okay. All right. So my question is that recently, and I've heard you even say, and even today, that you referred to XRP as a currency. Recently, we heard Christopher Giancarlo, former CFTC chairman, head of the Digital Dollar Project, also legal counsel to Wilkie Barr to Ripple, put out a professional opinion where he remarked that not only was XRP not a security, but a currency as well. If XRP is to be a bridge asset to the world from fiat to all other tokenized things of value, do you see this thing working any other way than as a currency? And the other question off of that as well is it more regulatory clarity we need, a designation of this asset as a currency, or is it more rules?
So, I mean, when something's a security, and I'm talking about a security in a legal sense, it really does gum it up. And you could make all these things securities or none of them securities. We live in this sort of difficult land where it's clear that Bitcoin and Ether are now, from a U.S. definitional point of view, not a security. It is not assured that XRP is not a security, but they're leaning that way. They're like, look, if you've got Ferraris and Maseratis out there, these if Satoshi and they call Ether, it's kind of European. If they can have their thing, like we Americans, we need something that can compete with those. And if you handicap us by making it a security, it's a problem. Look, when I was at Ripple and we got sued by FinCEN, and they said, look, it's money, so therefore you should be registered as a money transmitter, even though we weren't an exchange or whatnot. I was like, well, that's thankful. At least now we know we're not going to be treated as an asset or a security. We're not going to have the IRS or the SEC beating down our door. Boy, was I wrong. Like in America, like if this was physics, you could be a liquid, a solid, and a gas at all the same time. In physics, that's not possible. But from a regulatory point of view in the United States, you can have the downside of being a security, an asset, and a currency. So look, I think of digital currencies as currencies. The IRS, the SEC, they both get their bite at the apple. That's not going to change. I think it's changed enough for XRP that people are going to breathe a sigh of relief that they're not going to get slapped with a SEC punishment. And I think that's enough for Ripple to get to an IPO. And I think it's enough for people to use it as a bridge currency. That doesn't mean it's going to win as a bridge currency, but that's clearly what Ripple's chosen to focus on with XRP.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Greg. And I know we do have no.
And there you have it. So a really, really great answer and response, a very candid response from Greg Kidd. And I do appreciate that. I mean, I thought it was quite telling when he said, they got the answer from FinCEN back in the day, and it's deemed by FinCEN to be money, and he thought, well, this is great, this means we don't have anything to worry about. And of course he couldn't have been more wrong, and he felt like, and I guess that was because they still don't have the clarity that they truly need. I do believe that we got enough from Greg out of that response to understand from his position that he sees it as currency. He sees digital currencies as currencies, and it makes sense. I mean, listen, we've heard this narrative from Christopher Giancarlo, his position on that. We've heard David explain, the X for XRP is because that's the way a currency has to be listed when it's not issued by a country. it just over and over and over again. Marcus Treacher just recently in an interview referred to XRP as a bridge currency. And if it's going to exchange all these things of value, if it's going to exchange other fiats of the world and sit in between it as a neutral reference point to a global supplement to trade, I don't see how this thing could have cap gains or heavy taxes on it. I just don't see how that could be manageable for it to serve at the function that it was designed to serve. And that was my main reason for asking Greg about that question today. Plus, I mean, if you think about it, just coming from Ripple's aspect, Ripple's a blockchain infrastructure company. They offer a host of different options and programs and things that work that they've integrated into RippleNet and ODL, and the fact that they had when they started out, right, XVIA, XRapid, XCurrent, and now all these things have been combined. But if you look at the whole suite of products that they use and they host, you know, the full benefit is felt when you settle with the asset XRP. And truthfully, the even bigger component to that is not only when you use the suite of products and then settle with the digital asset XRP, but it's when you use the XRP ledger, because it's the universal ledger of the world. That's really what it's designed to be. Okay, guys, that's going to do it for me. I have a lot of really great video clips for you guys to see, a couple more from this conference, and then I have a lot more from another conference that happened from, I think, the Unite conference that was covered by Cointelegraph, and I'm going to bring you some really amazing clips from that as well tomorrow morning, so keep your head on a swivel. This is Crypto You Never Know. That's going to do it for me, guys. Hit the like and subscribe, share this with somebody you know, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Take care.